lights aren't on, Brian.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now we're on. All right. Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to City Council meeting February 6th, 2024. Thanks for joining us in council chambers here on Main Street and on TV and YouTube and everywhere around the world. We appreciate it. Let the record show if Mayor Leifson is watching. We started right on time. He'll be proud of that. We're going to start it off like we always do in Spanish Fork with a prayer motivational message followed by the pledge. Councilman Oyler is assigned the motivational message tonight.
I've invited Angela Beecher to come and give that tonight.
Hello. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "We are not makers of history, we are made by history." My name is Angela Beecher, and I am a part of the newly formed Historical Preservation Commission of Spanish Fork. So we're really excited. I just want to read you the purpose statement that we have as a Historical Preservation Committee. It is to identify, document, preserve, educate, promote, and protect the city's rich heritage through stories, artifacts, and historical sites within Spanish Fork. We're really excited about the opportunity for this historical commission to preserve the history of Spanish Fork. And we're especially excited to use the advancement of technology in doing so. We are planning on doing some 360 imagery and make that imagery available to the public. So we're really excited about that. We also plan to provide the public with many events to help them connect to the history of Spanish Fork. Through hopefully a regularly scheduled lecture series and other activities throughout the city. And we hope to have the citizens volunteer and be a part of this wonderful endeavor through documenting their histories and memories of Spanish Fork and just helping us preserve and collect the histories of Spanish Fork. We have such a rich heritage here in Spanish Fork, and it's so important to preserve that. So I think we're all excited to see where this goes. Our dear Father in heaven, we're so grateful for the opportunity we have to be here and to help further the city's purposes of pride and progress here in Spanish Fork. We are grateful for those who are willing to serve and to put forth the effort to make this city what it is. We also are grateful for the memories and the opportunities that we had to learn about the founders of this great city and pray that we might always preserve their history and keep them in mind as we go forth to a brighter and better future here in Spanish Fork. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Will you please stand and repeat the pledge after me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to item number 4 on the agenda, recognitions. Mr. Chris Thompson will come up to recognize the Division of the Year. And surprise if he's doing it, it's not Parks and Rec if he's doing it, right?
Do we need some walk-up music for this?
Yeah, we definitely do. Shoot off.
Okay, every year the Public Works Department has an annual report where each division reports on the progress they've made over the previous year and some of the accomplishments, and then gets into the plans for the upcoming years, and we have something called key indicators where they kind of measure themselves and they measure whether the progress, whether we've made progress on these key indicators or not, and after that, me and some administrative staff of the city get together and we vote on what the Division of the Year should be based on a lot of criteria. And this past year for 2023, the engineering division was selected. And you get a plaque for that, and on the plaque it kind of details some of the reasons why. And so I just want to read what's on the plaque. it says, so-and-so of the Spanish Fork Engineering Division for demonstrating exceptional dedication and transitioning from a reactive to a proactive division, emphasizing forward-thinking strategies, successfully implementing safety measures in traffic projects, reducing change orders, and showcasing effective project management. The commitment to embracing cutting-edge technology is evident in the implementation of Survey 123, which is a software program that can help take GIS-type map data and create applications out of it that people can use, such as when we are making sandbags or building sandbag walls, you can have people go into the app and just tap a button and it will record where they were working and things like that. So we're really excited about that, and a lot of different apps for the other divisions as they do maintenance on the utilities. Achieved an unprecedented number of completed traffic projects, contributed to city growth through numerous land acquisitions, and upgraded the Blue Stakes process for improved efficiency. Valuable team players fostering teamwork. They were valuable team players fostering teamwork and unity across various city departments on large projects. Anyway, I feel like ChatGPT did a really great job of describing them. We just plugged in Spanish Fork Engineering, and this popped out, but it's really true. They do work really hard, and they're down one engineer. It's been really hard to try to find a new engineer, and so everyone's just pitched in, and people who didn't have roles in project management before now have roles in project management, and we're making it work, and we're figuring it out, and they really have this attitude of how do we get this done, and you give them all the parameters that maybe some people would say, well, that's impossible, and they figure out a way to make it possible, and just really a fun group to work with. More often than not, too fun, but they enjoy their work, and you can tell, and they do a good job. So
engineering fun? I mean, is that? I guess.
Oh yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
Too fun for engineers is they're not having as much fun as maybe that sounded. But that being said,
backwards, Shane, just for fun.
It's not survey fun; it's just engineering fun.
Yeah, they'll get the rulers out, and it's fun for them. But just kidding. Just kidding. We'd like to have them all come up, though. If you could come on up.
They look really excited, like they're having fun right now.
Excited
This is them having fun.
They've been here before. Look at that.
They know.
They know the rules.
They don't repeat people.
Okay, so I'll just kind of read the names, and then if you can, come and get your plaque, and then maybe we'll just have you come and you can shake hands and then go down, okay? And we're just going to go in kind of order of longevity in the department. We have Sean Beecher. John Jorgensen, Russell Jackson, Travis Warren, Jerry Ann Finch, James Darling, Kimberly Coughlin, Marcy Clark, Wes Woodhouse, Matt Romero. Brock Thompson.
Byron's best.
Byron Haslam.
Just like we got.
Yeah, and just kind of wrap back.
We don't want to forget Jared Johnson.
Oh, thank you.
Wouldn't have happened until you got here. Once you got here, boom.
Oh, please.
And you, boom.
Yes.
Just raised the level.
Congratulations.
Mr. Romero, well done.
I didn't doubt you. I didn't doubt you for a minute.
Of course you did.
I didn't doubt you for a second, Jared.
We get another picture, so come on up.
Oh, yeah. Hey, look what I got. Hold on.
Nice job.
All right, let's do a couple rows.
Should we stand on this?
Jared right in the front.
That looks. All right, I'll take a step, you guys. All right, 1, 2, 3. Again, 2, 3. Thank you.
Nick rivals Pete.
Thank you, guys.
Ouch.
Thanks, you guys.
Really? Nick? No.
No.
Great work. Thank you, engineering department. Kind of a big deal in a city that certainly is growing rapidly across the Wasatch Front. Keeps them very busy, and they do a great job interacting with the public.
Hey, Mayor, one of the requirements of this award is that they have to stay through a whole council
Yep.
meeting, though.
Yeah,
If
that's
they
right.
leave early, they forfeit all elements of the prize.
Was there a prize other
Matt's
than
trying
a
to
plaque?
hand over his
Because I'm
plaque
putting
right
the plaque
now.
on the thing and waving.
Matt Romero's
Hey, the mayor's saying all these nice things about these guys. They're just walking out. Be serious. Thank you, Travis.
You're like,
See you, Ryan. See you, Russ.
okay.
Thank you, guys. Great people and a great department, and we couldn't do without them. So very
Chris?
good.
Chris, what did they get? What was the award?
Besides the plaque,
Some of the please.
I feel like
Like
the
a
plaque
handshake
should
and a
be
plaque?
enough, but they got a Costco gift card for $100, and then movie tickets and dinner out. So
Very cool.
yeah, it's kind of nice.
Okay.
You got a picture with you, Shane?
Yeah,
And a picture.
and a picture that they'll frame in their office. Yep.
Right next to the plaque.
Yep. Thank you, guys. That'll move us to item number 5 on the council agenda, public comments. Anybody from the public that would like to address the mayor and council for any reason, please come up and speak to us. I think we got you guys on the agenda in a minute. Yeah. Okay, seeing none, we'll move out of public comment, and we'll go to item A under number 5, the Spanish Fork Community Garden. People, we want to give you a little bit more time to be able to tell us what a great job you're doing down there by the police station. Please come up and tell us what's going on. Tell us your name. She wants to get your name, too.
All right. So I am Tiffany Miller.
I'm Hillary Whitaker.
All right. And we just wanted to share some highlights to begin with from the community garden this past year. So in 2023, Spanish Fork allowed us to build the garden on the land just north of the police station, and then provided water access for this project. And then Community Action Services and Food Bank was the fiscal and nonprofit sponsor for the project and provided the majority of the initial funding to get the garden started. We had more than 30 local businesses, organizations, and private donors that supported the project with funding and in-kind donations. We were able to build a total of 57 raised garden beds. We built them, filled them, and then they were planted by the gardeners and volunteers. 40 of those beds were for rental to community members, and the other 12 beds were utilized by the library, the scout groups, and for food to be donated and grown to Tabitha's Way Food Bank. We had a grand opening celebration that was held on Earth Day, and we had some food trucks, gardening classes, and free activities for families. And we have plans to have an annual Earth Day celebration hosted at the Garden this year in collaboration with the City Library and Parks and Rec departments, and we're hoping it does become an annual celebration. And then Lowe's selected the Garden as the recipient of their annual Hometown Heroes project and help us to build, paint, shingle, and stock our garden shed at the community garden. And then if we can get the video to play that we sent. And Hillary is our representative from Community Action Services and Food Bank, and she's going to kind of share what we're kind of looking forward to in this coming year.
Since one of our goals is to make gardening more accessible to varying income levels, many gardeners do not have access to a pickup truck. This presented a challenge during cleanup in the fall as we moved green waste to the transfer station. So we're looking for assistance with a container during our fall cleanup this coming year and following years. We're looking for meeting spaces like the Heritage Room at Library Hall or similar facility for our orientation meeting each April and periodic use approximately 4 times a year of a conference room at the library or similar facility for committee meetings throughout the year. We would love to coordinate with the library since there will be classes taught by the library at the garden as well as 4 beds donated to the new 1 to 5 year old gardening club. For ongoing fundraisers, we're looking at getting permission to sell food during the Earth Day event, as well as Saturday morning breakfast fundraisers in the fall that we're hoping to hold at the garden. Those preparing would have food handlers permits. The temporary fence we put up last year should last us another year, but we would like it to look better. So we're looking at possibly installing a chain link fence in the future. And we've had a lot of interest in the garden and currently have a waiting list for the beds. In future years, we would like to find possible additional properties throughout the city that could be utilized for community gardens and would love to work with the city to grow the project so all wanting to grow their own food would have the opportunity. Thank you.
We just want to give a big thank you to Spanish Fork for donating that land for us to get this started.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Hillary. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Any questions?
So you mentioned fundraising opportunities. What does it take financially to run this?
So it really doesn't take too much because the land is donated and the water is donated. It's mostly just the upkeep of the plots, adding in new chips for keeping down weeds. It's for adding in additional pieces. So, like, we weren't able to get a pumpkin patch going last year, and so, we want to be able to put more of that into it, or upgrading our drip systems. So, the overall cost isn't too much for the impact that it makes in people's families to have the fresh produce.
I have a question. The donors, I guess that would be, or the sponsors of the boxes, do they pay every year, or was that just a one-time?
It's a one-time donation.
Mm-hmm. And that was just to build the box?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Are they all sponsored up?
No, we still have boxes that could have possible sponsors.
How much is that?
It's I think we did 100.
Do you remember?
For you, Shane, it's $500.
Yeah.
I got you a sponsor.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I can't remember how much.
Yeah,
it was, but
I know
sorry.
our numbers lady is not here tonight.
Okay.
So
No
how
problem.
can people contact you if they're interested?
We have an email. It's sfutcommunitygarden@gmail.com. So it stands for Spanish Fork, Utah Community Garden at gmail.com. And then also Community Action Services.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You can contact them and they will get it to Hillary.
You fall under Dale's Department of Parks and Rec, I'm sure. So if
We've met
somebody
with Dale.
if somebody wants to get a hold of you guys or talk about helping out in some way, they can get a hold of them and they'll get them in touch with you. Is that
Yes.
Is that right? Okay, perfect. And the fencing around it, is that to keep our cops from stealing produce on the way
Correct.
home? Is that the main intent
They
of
keep
that?
eyeing it. No, just kidding.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
It's mostly to keep like animals out of the garden.
Okay.
It just keeps it can keep theft down. Most of the community gardens that I run in Provo, they don't have any of that issue. Most of the time, people do leave it alone, but it just keeps it looking nice, and it does prevent people from wanting to wander in there. Yeah, it looks more official.
Sure.
How many gardens does Community Action Services work with?
So currently, I have 5 with possibly opening another 3 by the end of 2024.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So far with the fence, we were just talking about, has it been effective in keeping out animals and people, theft and so forth? Does it
I would
work?
say
Yeah,
so.
we haven't had any troubles down there.
It's great.
Yeah. Our biggest issue is the wind because it'll knock over the fence. So we also want it to continue to look nice. And so we're trying to figure out ways to keep it up. But if the wind comes through and it's really fast, then it might knock it over.
Thanks for your work.
Dale, you do something about the wind, please? You handle that?
We've been working on that for about 50 years. Keeps our air clean. Instead of the positives.
There you go.
Tiffany and Hillary, I got a question for you. So when I garden, I'm an amateur gardener, not very good. I'd say half of what I grow gets thrown away because I'm not very good at growing things. How much waste did you guys see when it was done and they started cleaning up? Would you say most of it was actually used and went to a good place, or did you see some waste?
So as it being the first year, we did see a little bit of waste, and I think that it was maybe not working with the gardeners on finding out like, oh, I have too much, and so they might not know like, hey, harvest it on this date so we can deliver it to Tabitha's Way, or let us know what's extra and we can have, let any of the gardeners know, hey, you can go into that plot and you can take some of this. So
what are things that you would do differently this coming season?
So we're going to have specific work days and specific harvest days like for Tabitha's Way. And so we can let the gardeners know, hey, this is the day we're going to be harvesting. Please, come out and pick whatever extra you have, get it ready, or let us know, and we can have volunteers come out and help.
We're also going to be having it so that the gardeners can communicate with each other, and so they can be like, hey, I'm not going to be able to harvest this week. If you want to get something from my bed, it's open, kind of a thing, so that there's more communication.
So because there wasn't as much communication, people didn't dare pull produce from somebody else's garden bed that maybe was ready, and I love it. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Hillary. Great project, and we appreciate doing it here in Spanish Fork. Thank you so much. Okay, takes us on to the next item of the agenda. Is time for council comments. We'll start from the left-hand side tonight and go. You want to go first? Okay, Shane's going first, and then we'll move to Councilwoman Beck and go that way.
Okay, just a few things. First of all, our new transfer station should be open about April 1st. The old one will be gonzo, torn down, moved away, probably recycled through our new transfer station, hopefully. It is an amazing facility. I can't wait for it to open. I invite you all. At some point, the City Council, I'm going to find a time for us to go tour it and check it out, because it is a state-of-the-art place. I don't know who got to go on the tour up to Washington. Is it Washington to see the? Where's Chris?
Seattle.
Yep,
Seattle. But if you see the pictures, it does not look like the old one in any shape or form. So we'll get a chance to go take a tour. But April 1st. So Saturday, I got a chance to go watch the drill team compete at state. So the Spanish Fork Lady Dons finished third, and the Maple Mountain Elevays finished fourth. It was pretty cool. But what was a little bit disappointing as we sit there, my niece is on Spanish Fork, and so I'm in the Spanish Fork section, and Spanish Fork comes out and we cheer, and the Maple Mountain folks are two sections over and they don't cheer. And then Maple Mountain comes out, and the Spanish Fork section does not cheer for Maple Mountain. I'm like, what is going wrong with this thing? And I was thinking back to a time when I played in high school, and I'm like, would I cheer for an opposing opponent no matter where they were? Probably not. No. So I understood it, but it was just a weird feeling that both teams are from the city, and we weren't more supportive. But third and fourth, very respectable. They all did great. It's pretty. There's some talented ladies that do that. And so congratulations to Spanish Fork and Maple Mountain. A week ago, we all had a retreat, our work session. Let me be more specific. Our work session up in Wasatch County. It's always a good place to gather ourselves in a very efficient way of setting the direction for the new year. We talked about how long has this been going on, and I think it was well over 20 years that the City Council has been going off-site somewhere to do this type of workshop. It really does. I was thinking about how would we accomplish that same amount of work if we did this every other Tuesday. It would take us well into September to get that much work done. And we were able to do it in 3 days. So it's super efficient. We were able to line out the city, got great presentations from all the staff. I want to thank all the staff for participating. There's just no way to get into that level of detail without doing something like this. And being away from here and really just being immersed in city business for 3 days is just really helpful. So thank you all. And I don't know which city council prior to this decided to do that, but I thank you for that, because it was a genius idea. And I'm sure every city council member that has been part of the city council since then has appreciated going to there and taking the time to really dig into city business. So what else do I have? I think that's probably it. I'll let Stacy go.
Okay. I'll start with one of the committees I'm on. I'm on the Utah League Policy Committee. Every Monday, I go up to the Capitol with our city manager and talk about policies up there at the Capitol. Tomorrow is Hump Day. That means the legislative session is halfway done. And different things we're talking about this year are the things you would expect that we would be. We're talking about homelessness, inflation, water, affordable housing, and the Utah League of Cities and Towns are big advocates. And in conjunction with that, our legislators, our senators, and local state representatives, most of us were able to go to Bills and Bagels. That was on Saturday. We have a picture of that, right, Nick?
You don't need to show it.
Saturday morning at 7:30. Who loves politics at 7:30 a.m. on a Saturday? We do, right, guys?
Right.
But this was just a really good opportunity. They do it twice, so there will be another opportunity for anyone interested. It will be on Saturday, the 24th of February. It's just held right here on Main Street at the Nebo School District, and it's 7:30 to 9. Revere Health provides breakfast. Senator McKell there, and then we have other local representatives, and they just sit up here and take questions. So it's really helpful and engaging, and we get a lot of information. This specific picture, we invited Megan Johnson there in the orange coat to have a picture with us because she is the new head administrator at Spanish Fork Hospital. We're really excited for her. We've known her since she was the head nurse administrator there, and she's just a fabulous advocate for our city, and we're really excited for her. Some things we talked about there: Highway 6, state budget, energy, divisiveness, rent, education, teacher retention, and election results. So again, mark your calendar if you're interested for February 24th. And then Fiesta Days, the calendar is live. So if you are interested in getting things on your calendar, I know come May timeframe, I start getting texts from people out there saying, hey, when's the Pyro Musical? What day is the Children's Parade? People are wondering, making their calendar. So if you're planning trips and wondering when things are, you can hop online, SpanishFork.org, and just put in the search bar Fiesta Days. The calendar is there. Also, the applications went live for craft vendors and food vendors. Also, the Grand Parade. If you want to get in that, we only accept 100 entries. And so come June, it might be full. So now's the time to hop online and get that taken care of. And that's all I have. Oh, let me add, we are looking for the Children's Day Parade volunteers. That's on Saturday, the Saturday before Fiesta Days, and we're just looking for either a couple or two people that would oversee the Children's Parade. So if that is something that you are interested and capable of doing, feel free to reach out to me, or you can call the Parks and Rec Department and ask for Emily. That's all.
Perfect. Thank you, Councilwoman Beck. Councilman Oyler.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to repeat what Shane said about the mid-year work session. Grateful for all of the staff that put in the time of preparation to present to each of us. I think those meetings started at 8 a.m. and went right up to just about 5 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. So they were long days, but it didn't feel long. Lots of information, lots of good things coming to the city and Spanish Fork, and grateful to our city staff for the work they put in. This coming Friday is the Senior Center Valentine's Dance. If you've registered for that, don't forget. Should be a fun time, so just want to remind everyone of that. If you haven't registered, registration's closed, and so you'll have to wait until next year, Shane or Jesse or anyone else that will open the dance for Valentine. Can't just show up. It is a registered
When you talk
event.
about the senior center, it's just your voice is just like full of joy. It's pretty cool to listen to.
If you've not been to the Spanish Fork Senior Center, you absolutely do not know what you're missing. It is so cool to hang out with those people. And Shane, yes, I am full of joy when I'm down there. It is a lot of fun. So, and the meals that they have, the home cooked meals, are delicious. So there's a reason we had 180 people at our member meal last Friday. We were full. I think just about every seat at every table was full. So come down, join our seniors. Don't miss out. It's a great place to be.
You're perfect on that. I know a couple of weeks ago when Mayor redid assignments for us, and you said, if he would have taken me off the seniors, I would have been so mad.
And I would have been.
So Mayor, watch out.
He threatened leaving the council, and I'm like, all right, we'll keep you there.
Leave me there. I love it. Love it. Great place. Then I also just want to congratulate the Spanish Fork High School wrestling team. The Dons won divisional this last week, and we'll be sending 22 wrestlers to the state tournament. State tournament is the 16th and 17th of this month at UVU, and so if any of you are free and want to go support some local high school athletes, I would invite you to go to UVU on the 16th and 17th. It's a great thing to support our high school athletes. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Oyler. The message I got about that is they beat the second place school by 235 points. I don't know how many points. That doesn't sound very close to.
It was
second.
Not close, and it's been that way all year. They were 7-0 in region. Didn't get beat all year long. Just as an example, you've got I think eight high schools. Each high school sends 2 athletes at each weight group. Spanish Fork had the first and second place wrestlers in the 106 weight group wrestling each other for the championship. So we've got an amazing team this year. So proud of the boys and the work they've put in and the coaches that are there guiding them along the way.
No pressure, but we got fire trucks ready to go if necessary. Is that right, Chief? Thank you.
17th.
Yeah, cool. Way to go. All right, Councilman Cardon.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. First thing I wanted to talk about is the Arts Council. Currently, their last council meeting, Angela brought some mini masterpieces to you. You got a sneak peek at those, and she's expecting those back as part of that competition.
Like the whole bag back? Or
the whole bag with some art.
Oh.
So, Shane, get your engineering skills out and make smart. If you're interested in that, the registration is still open on the website. They are doing pickups right now, and then the art will be due the 1st of March. The end of February, and then the 1st of March they'll be displayed. So go ahead and check that out. It's a cool new event that's being done through the Rap Tax, and it's also something that is been very, very successful. So be a part of something special. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce, Nebo School District, the legislatures for doing the Bills and Bagels on Saturday. It's a great reminder from Councilwoman Beck that we are in the middle of a legislative session. If you're hearing things on the news, you're hearing bills, reach out to those that are elected to represent us at the state. There's a lot of things that are going on, a lot of fast-moving things. It's important that our voices are heard, and they do listen. They respond, and I know that as city, we have a lot of conversations that are going back and forth, but just make sure your voices are heard. That's what they're there for. And then also the Bills and Bagels is a great opportunity to ask some of those questions, because sometimes the news can have have their stuff out there, and they can help maybe guide some of those conversations or maybe their thought process on certain things. I have asked Christian, our airport director, to come and just give us an update on the airport. I get to talk about it a lot, but sometimes we don't get to hear from Christian very often. So, Christian, I'll invite you up here for a minute.
While he's coming up, I've noticed the airport board is filmed now,
Yeah,
right? You can watch that on YouTube?
On YouTube. Christian's pushing for it to be live. We haven't got there yet, but he's pushing.
We'll get there this year. Thanks for the opportunity, Jesse. I'll take about a couple, 3 to 5 minutes and run through this presentation, then I'll open up for questions from the council. So these are our operation numbers for the month of January 2024. This is either a takeoff or a landing. So our January operations totaled 6,313 operations. Looking back at 2023, we had almost 80,000 operations at the airport. So we are a busy, growing, and vibrant airport.
And that's with how long were we shut down? A little bit for
Yeah, just under 4 months. So we saw about a 70% reduction in operations during those 4 months of our taxiway reconstruction project. So if we had a full operational ability during those 4 months, we probably would have touched almost 100,000 operations last year. This is a look at our operations over the last couple years with very steady growth in our takeoff and landings at the airport. And this kind of gives us a closer look at that taxiway project. The green bars are 2023 operations numbers. So you can see, leading up into May, really high numbers, and then we started that taxiway project, and we saw a significant reduction in operations during that project.
So what do you attribute the growth that those April and May numbers are almost double?
Yeah. We've added a couple new flight schools to the airport, and we've just seen tremendous hangar growth at the airport, as well as overall just growth in general aviation. And it's, general aviation is kind of like the canary in the coal mine when it comes to the vibrancy and growth of a local economy and the economy as a whole. So these numbers really kind of show the vibrancy and growth of Spanish Fork City and the region.
So, Christian, while you're on this screen, this chart, how many operations in a month are you comfortable with, or at what point do you feel like this is too many?
Yeah, that's a great question. Getting close to 10,000 operations a month makes our airspace really crowded. And so I think looking at this year's numbers is going to be really key. We won't have a taxiway project, so we'll see kind of the full utilization of the airport over this next year. And we'll continue to kind of monitor that growth at the airport and the growth in our operations.
Is there, with those operations, are those scheduled, or can people just use the airport as they want? How is that
it's
managed?
Total free use. We don't have a control tower, so everybody flying in and out of the airport communicates radio to radio, and it works out really well, actually. These are some other key indicators that we look at year over year. So in the upper left-hand corner, we have our based aircraft. Those are aircraft that are hangared at the airport. So we currently have about just over 300 aircraft based here in Spanish Fork. And then we also monitor our overall hangar square footprint on our property. So we currently have just over 700,000 square feet of hangar space at the airport, and we're expecting to see that number grow significantly over the next couple of years. That growth is going to come from these three approved developments. I know the council has had a lot of involvement in that over the last year or two. The first is Patey Aviation. Their first phase of their development will bring 67 new hangars. They're currently they're paying the airport just under $200,000 to reserve that property for development. And once that first phase is complete, that'll be just under 400,000 square feet of hangar space. Once those hangars are complete and they're paying full hangar footprint revenues, that'll be about $350,000 annual revenue to the airport. We also have Utah Aviation building 24 new hangars. Their ground lease is $56,000. They'll bring 180,000 square feet of hangar space and approximately $76,000 annual revenue to the airport when those hangars are complete. And lastly, we have General Aviation Development bringing 37 new hangars. They pay a ground lease for during development of $20,000. They'll bring just under 90,000 square feet of hangar space, and when those hangars are complete, they'll pay annually $37,000 to the airport for those hangar square footprints. We also are close to completing our land swap. This is a map of that land swap. We're looking forward to proposed development on that parcel of land that we'll be acquiring. So Utah Aviation and General Aviation Development have both applied for development on that parcel already. Recap of our big 2023 projects. We built 29 new tie-downs. We also constructed a helipad for the state and were reimbursed for that work. We also had 14 new hangars that were substantially completed, as well as our taxiway alpha reconstruction project. And looking into 2024, we have a runway crack seal and seal coat and paint project. We will focus a lot on airport safety and procedures with that large growth in operations and the number of hangars on the airport. We have a new airport parking lot plan, as well as additional tie-downs and piping of ditches around the airport. We'll work closely with the 3 approved developers and their projects, and we'll work on implementing and public relations for our newest proposed fee, which is landing fees, which the airport board is working through right now. So that's the end of my presentation. Any other questions from the board or
At what
council?
point do you need more resources? Your revenue jumps by the time all that's done by almost $500,000. Seems like there are things to do that you and your team can't accomplish right now.
Yeah, we have a never-ending list of improvements to the airport that we want to add. So we've structured that out through our capital improvement plan over the next decade. But our partnership with the city really helps us. Usually we won't have, a lot of airports won't have the close support of their city or county. And so with our partnership with the city, we're able to tap into a lot of resources that the city has, and that really helps us cut down on our operational and equipment costs.
Gives the engineering department a chance to earn Division of the Year.
That's right.
I think one of the things that's been fun on the airport board is just seeing Christian and the airport board really work through some of these growing pains, we'll call them that, and really try to dive in and figure out how to make the best use of what we have, and then also trying to, you've seen the airport board take a really close look with the airport, with the schools that are on the field as well, trying to work together. How can we be the safest? How can we work together to make sure that our airspace is staying safe?
Christian, some people might ask the question, Provo's got an airport that's growing. Ours is growing. What's the difference between those 2 airports?
Yeah, so Provo offers commercial service, so you can hop on an airline and fly to the destinations they offer there. So that's really what they're focusing on, and that's where their revenue for their airport's really coming from. Our airports focus more on general aviation and public use, and that's what our drives our revenue and is what our main purpose and goals are based around.
I just want to add thanks, Jesse, for inviting Christian here. Mayor assigned me to be on the airport board in our last meeting, and I went to my first meeting, and I'm really impressed the way you're running things and the communication. You keep the board updated very regularly with really great details. But the growth in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be big, and I think you're the right man for the job. You're doing a really fantastic job there. Thank you.
May I ask a quick question? Christian, tell me, of the operations last year, you probably don't have the exact number, and that's okay, but ballpark-wise, how many of those were touch and goes from schools?
Yeah, I do actually have the exact numbers on that. That was just under 70%.
70%?
So 60% of the operations were based flight schools. 10% was non-based flight schools from like Provo or South Valley or Nephi, and the remaining 30% was from other aviation aircraft. So we have a lot of capacity at the airport that if we don't have touch and goes, or if we adjust how touch and goes happen, which I think is the big reason why that's a topic that the airport board is talking about. A lot of the airspace capacity is being tied up by those circular flights and those touch and goes, and so I think that's an important thing for you to as a board to be considering, and as you look at extending the life of the facility.
We got item D on our consent agenda that will have to do with the airport and a little amendment to the land swap. But I think it's timely to mention. I know your airport board's talked about it too. We've talked about it up here before, but remind the residents. Congressman Burgess Owens helped us out with kind of speeding up some money there to study Taxiway Bravo, which is a huge benefit to that side of the airport as well, right? So with that design, that's things that we would have had to wait maybe months and years for some funding to get it going, but it sped it up, and now private dollars that total in the hundreds of millions to be on that side is really a difference maker for not only the airport but our city as a whole. It's a lot of private investment in your community. So thank you to Burgess Owens and his team and visiting us down there, and you letting them know what's going on. So appreciate you.
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the last 2 things I have is I want to, again, echo some of the things that have been said about the mid-year work session. Thank you to the city staff who prepare and really make sure that we all know what's going on and some of the hardships that their departments are dealing with. It's important that we as city council know what to expect or what is going on so that we can make good decisions. And then last is not to continue on the public works train, but I want to thank the Public Works Department for, there's a lot of things that happen in our city with roads specifically, and there was an issue on 400 North that Chris was made aware of it, or he was already aware of it when I talked to him about it, and had things in motion to get it fixed, and it had to do with the train there on 400 North and that little overpass they did some work on, some dips that were created, but the team there worked tirelessly with a lot of different departments because it wasn't our issue, but they said it's affecting our people here in Spanish Fork, and made sure that was taken care of. So thank you, Chris. Thank you to your team that do that more than we see. But when we see it, I think it's important that we point those things out. So thank you. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Cardon. Councilman Tooke.
All right, thank you, Mayor. It's been a busy and exciting couple weeks for the committees that I get to serve on and with. So let me just jump into the top 3 highlights for me, at least, I wanted to share with all of you tonight. So the first one, I may have a couple slides. We'll see if we can get those up as I talk. But the first one was the library yearly training. It was for the cities of Spanish Fork Library, Santa Quin, and Salem, as you can see there. This was amazing. It was provided by the state office, and I loved it. We were right across the hall here in that meeting room, and one of the first things that our library director here in Spanish Fork, Scott Eilert, said that I thought was really powerful was he said that Spanish Fork's library is the city's living room. And that hit me because I cannot think of a better living room than this amazing, beautiful building and the resources we have here. I just felt very lucky. So I liked that, how he kicked it off. And then some of the slides I wanted to show, you can see as you kind of read through them, that the state really focused for the library board members on the value of working with the city council and coming to city council meetings and really getting involved with being connected with the city, and that will help make the libraries even better. So I thought that was also fantastic to make our libraries in South Valley even better. And the last slide I had from this training was one of the things they told us, and that was they said that libraries are trusted second most in a city behind firefighters. And I thought that was really interesting. I'd never heard that, and but again, powerful statement for us to all be aware of. So that was the library board training, state training that happens once a year. Next, I'd like to talk about another amazing event that happened for the Spanish Fork Chamber of Commerce. We had the Chamber of Commerce Awards Gala, and all of us were actually able to attend, as you can see right here. There's a couple other pictures we may show you as well. What a wonderful evening. Kathleen Levitt, who's not able to be with us tonight, she did an amazing job, and just the whole evening and event was a big success, and we have such amazing businesses in Spanish Fork. I was just very proud to, see all of them there and be honored for all of their achievements and success. This event was held at the Amavi Event Center here in Spanish Fork, by the way. But just on a personal note, at my table, I was sitting by my next door neighbor, who is one of the managers at Stokes in Salem, and he and his wife, and they were awarded the Business of the Year. And I just thought that was awesome to be right there in that moment and see how excited he was. It was very meaningful, and we just have an amazing Chamber of Commerce. And this was a special event, the first time I've had the chance to attend this, and so anyway, loved it. And the last thing I wanted to share with you tonight is about the Miss Spanish Fork workshop that was held this past Saturday morning. And I think I have a picture. There it is. Yeah, I love this. I was able to speak with the young ladies. We have 15 young women who are scheduled to compete in this pageant. That's a big number. If you don't know much about the pageant world, that's amazing. Not amazing when you consider how supportive the city of Spanish Fork is towards the Miss Spanish Fork program and the Little Miss program. Spanish Fork has supported these programs very well for years, and that was reflective to me in the support that morning of all of these amazing young women who wanted to put themselves out there to compete. A couple thoughts I shared was I'm just proud of you for being, vulnerable and being brave to do this, and just told them to have fun. And, some will get scholarships, some won't, but you'll grow, you'll make friends, the relationships, all the amazing, awesome takeaways from participating in the Miss Spanish Fork program. They're endless. And then I was able to help do a mock interview with our current Miss Spanish Fork, Lexi, there in the middle at the end, and that was also special for me. So that was an amazing morning. One last thought I wanted to share was a couple things from our Chamber of Commerce president, Kathleen, who's not able to be with us tonight. Some of these have been touched on, but they're upcoming events just so the city's aware of what's happening. So on February 8th at 2 p.m. in Salem, we have a ribbon cutting for SprayNet Pro. So again, that's on the 8th at 2 p.m. in Salem. On the 21st of February at IHC in the ICU, there's also ribbon cutting. And then the last one is on the 24th of February. Has been mentioned, but just again, real quick, the Bills and Bagels. So again, that's on the 24th. And if you have any questions, please reach out. But otherwise, that is all I have, Mayor.
Perfect. Thank you, Councilman Tooke, getting up to speed on your committees and doing it well. So appreciate you being the new guy and taking it by the reins. So good work. Okay, I just have a couple of things really quick. Sit on a homelessness task force for Utah County with the mayors of Provo, Lehigh, Springville, Payson, and Salem. I think all of the Utah County mayors are supposed to be on it. I don't know if it goes to all the cities or not, but had a couple meetings. Really having those meetings right now, and still the time that it's cold outside, which is trying to help the unsheltered stay safe on the nights that get really cold. And so appreciate the collaboration between all the communities in Utah County. It's not there's no easy fix to that problem whatsoever, but we're chipping in where we can as communities because we all have some of the homelessness population within our city limits. And so it's something that I'm encouraged by, that there's tools, there's resources, there's very generous and giving organizations in Utah County that have really opened my eyes to a problem that's prevalent all over the nation, but especially in larger cities. And we're doing things a little bit different than maybe you've seen in places. And we hope that it helps. We hope that it can assist those people that live around us in each of our communities. So really understanding that problem, and the legislature has required us to have a plan in Utah County and submit that in the August timeframe to be codified in law. And so appreciate the partnership and working relationship with those good mayors in Utah County to help solve this problem and come up with something that we can be proud of. Keying into that, the state legislature also requires some other stuff of cities, and that's usually coming up during the legislative session. Councilwoman Beck touched on it as she sits on the Legislative Policy Committee for the League of Cities and Towns, and Seth Perrins, our manager, sits on the board there. So if you have a minute, Seth, if you'd update our residents maybe on the hot points of this week. We get the here and there of Channel 13 or Channel 5 or whatever flavor of news you're watching in the morning of what's going on in the legislature, but maybe what's affecting the cities and what we're watching out for.
So interestingly, Mayor, as a League of Cities and Towns, which is an organization that has been mentioned a couple of times, we belong to, and they track city-related matters. At this moment, they are tracking nearly 200 bills during the session, which is a record number at this point, and it will likely grow by a few more as the session continues. So I'm just going to spend a few moments on each of those 200.
Perfect.
That's
yeah,
okay.
Start at one.
No, I'm not going to do that. But I think I want to touch on maybe 2 or 3 bills right now, and certainly welcome any feedback or thoughts from you as elected officials. And Nick's going to throw a picture up. Probably one that's of greatest concern right now to cities is Senate Bill 172. And Senate Bill 172 is, it's called Protection Area Revisions is kind of the tagline, but it's really about, we're calling it the gravel pit bill. And the bill intends to make gravel pits like mines and giving them a lot of freedoms and flexibilities to work around city zoning. We don't have any active gravel pits here, so you might think this isn't a big deal to Spanish Fork City, and why do we care? But we care significantly about this bill because what the bill is seeking to do is to take an element of the code that exists for mines and take that language basically verbatim and bring it over and apply it toward these gravel pits and pun intended, undermine the land use authority of any city that has those gravel pits within their boundaries, giving these properties the ability to just grow and grow and grow beyond any zone that may exist. And so this is an image of a gravel pit that exists in an area, and if they were allowed to expand based upon how the language is written, you can see kind of in the bottom left of the picture that it would eat away at the hillside right up to and close adjacent to those homes, well beyond any area that has been previously planned, zoned, and figured within the confines of this particular jurisdiction. Thank you. You can take that down. So as a League of Cities and Towns on Monday, we listened to some comments from some of the bill proponents, had a pretty significant discussion about it, and then as a league took a position to say we oppose it. I think the language was we strenuously object or something like that out of a few good men. But that's something that we take very seriously, as the legislature reviews, proposes and reviews bills. Is this bill undermining the authority given to cities to plan for and execute on land use within their communities? And this bill, I think in about 20 of 21 possible points, hits all of those, not in a good way. So we're definitely opposed to that one. Another one I wanted to touch on is House Bill 289. This one is a property rights ombudsman bill, and this seeks to put into the code some language that we've never seen before as it relates to some reviews of land use, and that is consequential damages. And that is something that if a city and a developer go to the ombudsman gives an opinion, and there's still disagreement about how to move forward, and one or the other group takes the issue to court. If the court rules in a manner that is similar to the ombudsman, then some of the language includes that the court shall assess consequential damages. And the challenge for us as cities is we talk about what the ombudsman role is. It's to advise, and I don't believe that many cities or perhaps any developers even are going about things in a nefarious way. We're truly trying to go about executing on statute, whether city code or state code, execute on that statute in a way that is their best efforts, right? Their well-intentioned efforts, and to elevate the ombudsman into a role that is judge-like, because now the damages that get assessed may be significant and in the millions. That's not a judgment I want a developer to have to pay. And it's not a judgment that I want the residents to have to pay, because there's no insurance for this kind of thing. And so if there's an award of a few $1 million for this or that, that's something that comes out of the taxpayer's pocket. And that's a standard that I think goes significantly too far. So that's a bill that we're working on. And then the last one I want to highlight, Mayor, is Senate Bill 185. This one just came out, and it has some language that says that cities and a chief building official shall accept inspections from any certified inspector. That language is pretty simple and doesn't seem like it does a whole lot. But what it does is it allows for, say, a home builder to provide their own inspector throughout the process of building their home, and essentially taking out any kind of independent third-party, independent city inspections. And as cities, we find that a significant erosion of the role that the inspections process plays in the construction of a home. So we're working with the Senate sponsor on that bill, and hopefully we get to a good place. But right now, those are three of the 200 I wanted to spotlight. And any questions on any of those bills? I know Councilman Cardon's been involved in some of the LPCs along with us, listening from home, and I think he's loving it. He probably isn't going to say that, but I think he's loving it.
do.
Most exciting thing ever.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Must see, right?
Appreciate that, Seth, and appreciate your service on the board there, and Councilwoman Beck as well. You can see by the information gathered in this short window of a legislative session how much can affect your local government, and so just know that we're involved, all of us, to an aspect of it, in trying to keep up to date with that. You can go to the legislature's website, le.utah.gov. You can track bills there. You can go to the league's website. Your city is a member of the league, so ulct.org, and you can see how informed. I know Spanish Fork citizens are already informed. You've been watching City Council on YouTube for 25 years, and there's still some cities in the state that don't even broadcast it live or record it. So I know we're informed citizenry, but just know that's the information we're trying to get out to you as much as possible, so you can know about it as well. And please reach out with any questions if anything we can help with. Councilwoman Beck, I appreciate, made a post, I think, this last week, maybe it was the week before, about how you can sign up for regular notifications of our public meetings, right? And get those right to your inbox rather than, I didn't know there was a meeting. You can get those to come right to you. So,
well, I think all of us, the way we digest news is we want to be spoon-fed. What I'm interested in is not what Mayor's interested in. What we're interested in is not going to be what Shane's interested in. So as a community, it's really hard to know what you want. And to be involved is timely, and I think to just put your foot forward and have those notifications sent to you and choose from there, because it's really hard for us, but also as a city, to just be like, here's all this stuff, and nobody cares, or you're really mad about this, but not this, that we can't guess. So I think that's a great avenue to go, is just like have it in my inbox, and I will be as involved as I want to be.
I'm getting fed a lot of golf memes right now in my news feed is what I'm getting.
That's what you're being spoon-fed?
Spoon-fed.
That's weird. I never get any.
Do you not get that?
Memes. No. But home decorating, you're not getting those?
I'll share some with you. They're hilarious. Okay. They're pretty good leading up to it. Thank you. Appreciate everybody being involved in their committees and in informing us of those meetings and those updates. Please remember, reach out to any of your council members for the committees that they're on and ask them questions. They'd probably even invite you to a board meeting if you wanted to come and hang out and see what's going on with those different boards. Okay, that takes us to Spanish Fork 101, road closure and Outage's website. Mr. Chris Thompson will take us through the 101.
Okay, this is something that the engineering division has been working on, which we're really excited about. If you go to the Public Works website, just right below those red bars, you see some 5 major links, and the ones kind of in the middle and to the right of middle, it says road closure map and utility outage link. So let's first go to the road closure map. If you click on this, we've started to look, and this is at the encouragement of Seth, at our road closures more globally. And before we authorize a closure, we look at a map and we look at all the closures that are being proposed and make sure they work together. Now, we're in the winter time, so there's not as many as in the summer, but at any time, any resident or employee or staff can come to this map. They can click on a road closure and get some information about how long that closure is going to last, the extent of the closure, if it's completely closed off, or if there'll just be lane closure, and anticipated time of when it will be over. So we're really excited about this, and it kind of helps us regulate these closures that we get a lot of requests for them. Also tells you what the closure is for. And what we want to do is kind of train the public to kind of know this is there, and if I have a question, instead of calling the city, I can just go here and get the information at my fingertips, and And kind of like for those of us who have kids that played in city sports, we all know to go to the rain out page to find out if the game's going to be rained out or not. We kind of want that same sort of training to go in, hey, I have a question about a road closure that's near me. How long is it going to last? And instead of calling the city or wondering about it, you can just go to this website and see it. Any questions about that, the web closure map? Okay, the next one is the utility outage map. And this is, or not map, but it's the utility outage website. Gratefully, there's no utility outages right now. But if there was one, it would show up here, and there would be information on the outage and how long we imagine it will be. And this is where we'll post updates for the outage so that residents can know what's going on. Sometimes we'll have a water main break, and it only affects 5 or 6 houses. We kind of hate to, on Facebook, blast that out to the whole world to update those 5 or 6 houses. And so this is where that outage information will be. And we just kind of want to train residents to, if you have an outage of water or power or internet or whatever it is, there's a place where you can go and get that information.
So, Chris, will internet be on here as well?
I think they might be on their own website, have some information as well. Yeah. But we certainly kind of anticipate that.
Envision it somewhat like the Pulse Point app. There's some people that ask, "Hey, what happened on this road or this road?" And somebody always says, post a screenshot of the Pulse Point, says, "Well, it says this is what happened." Mm-hmm. So, if you want to be informed, you go there. If somebody's asking, and then you can say, "Well, this is what's out right now, and this is the road closure, and this is why," rather than guessing.
Yeah, and just people kind of expect to have that type of information available to them on their phones, on their computers, and so I'm really happy with how engineering has done this. And also, I need to point out, SFCM is actually the one who helped us do a lot of this as well, because they helped us make the website, so we appreciate them. Okay.
Thank you, Chris. Good stuff there. Takes us to the consent item agenda. There's one item on the consent agenda, the minutes, item B, the minutes of the midway work session aren't quite ready yet, so the rest seem to be ready. Is there any questions about the other items, A, B, and D? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent items.
I move to approve the consent items A, C, and D.
Oh, sorry about that. I got that wrong. Yep, A, C, and D. Motion made by Councilman Cardon, seconded by Councilwoman Beck. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
The consent items are approved. Takes us to item 9, new business. Ordinance for the Municipal Code update. Chapter 7.2, historical preservation update. Mr. Tyler Jacobson.
It was interesting as I was sitting there, I realized that the historic preservation is behind you and in front of you. So with our motto for the city, Pride and Progress, tonight we'll be talking about the pride. And then with the city mission statement, we strive to build and maintain a vibrant city. So we'll be talking about maintaining our history a little bit. So a few updates to the historical preservation code that we're recommending tonight. One of those being increasing the size of the commission, the historical commission, from 5 members to 8 members. The purpose of that is so that we can have a few of our staff members on the team that can help us with preserving that history. For example, Pete Hansen, who produces and is in charge of producing a lot of the content that we have with our videos on SF17. And then Mary Martin with our Community Development Department is, she has her master's degree, and Dave could probably tell me better, but is it historic preservation? So she has a master's degree in historic preservation. Then we've got Tara Silver, who's our city recorder that has a vast knowledge of the documents that the city has. So that's one major change. Another change to the code is the number of times that they meet per year. We're suggesting an increase from twice per year to at least quarterly. And then there are a few other cleanups within the code that were a result of old dates and some other things in there. But any questions?
I just want to know what the legal definition of mothballing, who had to look that one up.
So that was compliments of Mary. I think she learned that in her master's program. The definition is in the code if you want to read that. Yeah. But yeah, mothballing, it's an interesting term, right?
Yeah.
I always thought it was something different.
I just didn't know I'd ever see it in like a legal format or a contract.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Hey, awesome. We're making history here, Jesse.
Right.
But any other questions on that?
Any questions for Tyler on this?
Nope. Well, I'm reading in Section A where it says they're a 4-year term, but initially appointments will be 1, 2, 3, or 4. Is that just to start it off so everyone's not going off at the 4 years?
Exactly, yeah. So that there's some knowledge that will continue on with the group. That's another change that was in there. It used to be 5 years, but to try to help it correspond, and I left Councilman Oyler off the commission. He's heading up the commission, so the idea is that way it'll match up a little bit better with the council member that's on it.
So we are having our first committee meeting this coming Friday. At that point, we'll discuss a lot of this. We'll elect or appoint a committee chairperson and go over kind of the terms that each member's able to and willing to serve. So we'll get that a little more organized this week.
Thanks, Kevin. One thing I failed to mention is this will actually help us in receiving more grants for historical preservation. And so this is really a revitalization of what we already had in the code, but at the same time, it'll help us to get some additional funding.
You thought he was geeked out about the seniors, Shane. Wait till you see him on this committee. He loves this one too. Right,
same tone is there, that's for sure. I've got a list that was put together of some of the projects that we will be focusing on. I cannot wait to share some of these ideas. It's going to be great for the city.
It goes without saying, but Angela here that gave the thought tonight, Angela Beecher, thank you for your participation in this and for your passion with it too. It's going to be pretty cool and involving some really neat people and passionate people about it. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Mayor. It's good to recognize Angela. She was the one who took the lead on in helping us to come up with some ways to better improve our policy, or our code.
She's the better half of the Beecher clan, even though he's got a new plaque tonight. She's still the better half. So, thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions for Tyler, I would entertain a motion for item A.
I move to accept the Municipal Code Update, Chapter 7.20, Historical Preservation.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Oyler, seconded by Councilman Cardon. A roll call vote here. Councilman Tooke.
Yes.
Councilman Marshall?
Yes.
Councilwoman Beck?
Yes.
Councilman Oyler?
Yes.
And Councilman Cardon?
Yes.
Item A is approved. Moves us to item B that goes right hand in glove with the Historical Committee. A couple of appointments that Tyler mentioned here, and Councilman Oyler did let me know I messed up on a name.
Wasn't your fault.
A couple of weeks ago, right? So we do have to get that right before we, we can get that in the motion of adding these people. But tell me who that was, whose name we got wrong.
So we had appointed Darla Talbot. It's actually Darla Butler.
Okay. There might have been a Darla Talbot out there that was like, wait, what did I volunteer for, right? Darla Butler. Okay, thank you. This motion is to add, like Tyler Jacobson mentioned, Pete Hansen, Tara Silver, and Mary Martin to the Historical Committee. If there's no objections to that, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to accept Pete Hansen, Tara Silver, and Mary Martin to the Historical Committee.
Motion made by Councilman Oyler,
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Marshall. A roll call vote here. Councilwoman Beck.
Yes.
Councilman Oyler.
Yes.
Councilman Cardon.
Yes.
Councilman Tooke.
Yes.
And Councilman Marshall.
Yes.
Item B is approved. Takes us to item C. This is ordinance for the Orchard Amended Master Plan Development Overlay Approval Request. Mr. David Anderson.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. This item was on your agenda a couple of weeks ago and continued at that time. It involves a 7.5 acre site located on the east side of 3400 East, north of a project that Fieldstone will be developing, if any of you remember that. Subject properties just south of where 3400 East used to intersect with State Route 89, the boundary between us and Mapleton. A few weeks ago, the item was continued because there was some conversation about whether or not, with this proposal, the applicant anticipated dedicating some land that's needed for a future railroad project on the east side of the subject property, and whether or not, if the applicant did that, they'd be compensated for that property or not. Since your meeting, I've had a couple of opportunities to meet with the applicant. We've discussed different options, and I'll let them speak for themselves if I get anything wrong, but or maybe otherwise, whatever you'd care. It's my understanding that the applicants would prefer to proceed forward as proposed as a master plan development with the overlay, which is on your agenda tonight for approval, so as to have 16 lots in the project, and to forego the opportunity to be reimbursed for that right-of-way, rather than to have the project reviewed as a standard subdivision with 14 lots, which is how it was originally approved. Get that right? That's right. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So it's really that simple tonight. I will note that the staff report reads that it's on your agenda for preliminary plat and zone change approval. There's a little bit of a change that took place on the 1st of February relative to the state law that regulates how projects of this nature are reviewed and approved. So we've taken the position of staff that the preliminary plat actually was approved by the Planning Commission for a 16-lot master plan development. However, the zone change component of this with the master plan development overlay, which you held the public hearing for previously, is in need of your approval for the project to be able to proceed forward as designed. So a little bit of a transitionary time for us right now as we go from how we were doing things to how we will be doing things going forward. And with that, if you're inclined to approve things tonight, it would just be the approval of the zone change based on the findings that we have in the staff report. Any questions about any of that?
Questions for Dave? This is one we saw in a previous council meeting, right? And
correct.
Coming back with these details.
Incident, I want to mention, I really appreciate the applicants working with us. They've been very accommodating by way of adjusting their design and things like that. It's something we've appreciated.
Perfect. We're not in a public hearing for this. If the applicant wants to speak, you certainly can. If Dave summarized it well enough for you, we can move ahead with that. Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here. Any questions? If there's no questions on this ordinance, I would entertain a motion for item C.
I'll go ahead and move to approve the proposed ordinance zone change for the orchards based on the findings in the staff report.
Motion made by Councilwoman Beck.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Tooke. A roll call vote here. Councilman Cardon.
Yes.
Councilman Oyler.
Yes.
Councilwoman Beck.
Yes.
Councilman Marshall.
Yes.
And Councilman Tooke.
Yes.
Perfect. Item C is approved. Takes us to item, thank you guys again for being here. Item D, under new business, Modera Subdivision Development Agreement. Mr. Vaughn Piquel.
Mayor and Council, you might remember that the Modera zone change and the preliminary were approved back in 2022. But it was subject to a condition that they finalize their development agreement with the city. So that's what's before you tonight, is the consideration of the development agreement after it's been negotiated and finalized. It's based on our standard form for development agreement, so it includes the obligations of the developer and of the city going forward. It includes the plans for the project, reimbursement procedures, the phasing plan, all the typical things that you would see in a development agreement. The plan for the storm drain outfall was that it would be detained on site and then released at the historic rate at the historic location near 1700 West. And so those historic flow rates would just continue on. As you know, right now, there's no development, so the historic rate is what's generated now by pasture and open agricultural land. So there is a recent concern from nearby property owner in Salem about the methodology of that storm drain study, and we met and discussed that with them. And so the conclusion there was that the property owner's engineer would meet with the study author and figure out or look into the assumptions and the methodology of that storm drain study. So there's an additional condition that's proposed for you to consider tonight in approving the development agreement, that the discharge storm drain be at historical flow rates and at the historical location. And even if the historical discharge rate changes based on further study and analysis. Hopefully it's written before you in your agenda packet there, so I'd recommend that you include that in your motion. Any questions about the Modera?
I have a question. Is that the only reason this had to come back before us again?
No, it's just a ratification of the development agreement. Get that to be approved by you. The whole project was approved,
right,
just with this condition that finalize the development agreement, we'd bring it back and have it approved by the city council.
So there's nothing in the plans that changed?
I can't speak to that. I don't know.
It's a little bit. There's 10 fewer units than there was initially. But
so this is not a preliminary plat approval. This is a development agreement approval.
Exactly.
Yeah, in May of 2022, the preliminary plat was approved subject to the applicant meeting
like
8
7
conditions.
things. Oh, 8, okay.
And one of those was that the applicant enters into a development agreement with the city, which is what's on your agenda tonight, simply to memorialize, like Mr. Piquel said, the approval, and to ensure, I believe, that several of those conditions were met, and they have been met.
So they're just coming to us just saying, hey, we did what you've asked us to do?
Well, one of the conditions of approval requires the agreement to be approved by the city council before we can do anything with the next step on the project,
which
by
is?
Way of final plat approval.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's not because they're being magnanimous or anything. This is an important part of the project being able to proceed.
Will final plot approval go here because it's stacked? I know we talked about that last time, but
no. Okay. It will not. No, to be clear, it will not come before the city council. That is a development review committee action.
That was my question.
As Dave mentioned in the previous item, there's some changes with the law, and you won't see plats really at all unless it's in the sense of a concept where you're considering a zone change.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you.
A couple questions for you. And honestly, I can't remember if this verbiage was in here last time or not, but I think one of those conditions was, I don't know, what is number 7? I can't remember what it's talking about, trying to protect the agricultural use next to here. So we asked them to do that, and this agreement is the result of that. Is that correct?
And more specifically, the preliminary plat improvement plans that are an exhibit to the agreement show how, for example, runoff from this site would be addressed so as not to have an adverse impact on any adjacent properties. That was the biggest concern that our staff identified, that potentially could be harmful to adjacent sites. There may be other details there that
on page, I don't know, it's hard to say page-wise, 126.
Yeah.
There's a disclosure of ag operations near the apartment. So the idea is, hey, owner, you're going to move here. We're going to disclose to you that agricultural operations exist here. You need to acknowledge that they exist. it's seems like it's written to protect. Well, that's the first part. So that's the disclosure, and then further in the document, like 3 or 4 pages later, it's more than 3. It's on page 133, number 7. Neither the applicant nor the city shall be responsible for any adverse effects resulting from the use of agricultural properties. Seems like this is intended to protect the developer and the city, and not necessarily those that are trying to use their property for agricultural purposes. Am I misreading this?
I think it's both. I think the disclosure puts the buyers and the tenants on notice that there are existing agricultural operations nearby, and that you will have the attendant smells and noises and things that go along with that. But then conversely, it's to protect the city and the developer from whatever they do on those neighboring agricultural properties. There could be some impacts to a resident here, and that's just the way life goes if you develop in an agriculture area.
The intent is to allow the agricultural use to continue,
of course,
and not have those that live there say, "Hey, I'm sick of this. Go do something about it." Right? So that's the intent, and I think that's what we agreed about that night. It feels like it was literally 12 years ago at this point. You weren't here, right?
That comes at you fast.
Were
you here?
I was on planning commission.
I was 15 when we first did
it. That was a really long time ago.
Rude.
I would stand up. I would stand up for you, but
were you here?
I was told I didn't.
Kevin was here.
Yeah, I was here.
Kevin was here. It was like week 1.
2021. Yeah, it was pretty early.
So you believe, as written, that does this. Clearly that's the intent, and the verbiage protects the agricultural operations as much as it does the city and the developer.
Yes, there's more to it than just the notice, the disclaimer. There's state law about protection from nuisances.
Okay. And they're protected?
Yes.
Okay. I have a couple other ones. I don't think they're suited for you. They're more of drainage questions. Dave, but I'm a little bit confused of what we're actually approving. The plans were in front of me. I reviewed them. I still have some concerns about some drainage. Are those appropriate questions to ask? Or is that ship sailed?
I wouldn't ask them of Dave, though. I would ask them of your fellow fun-loving engineer.
Okay, let's do it. Do you all care if I keep asking questions?
Go ahead.
I'm not going to really do it.
Were you going to stop if we said?
You're welcome to put a timer on me. That's totally fine.
You have 3 minutes.
You have until 7:52.
Really?
I don't know. I'm just
okay.
Speak freely.
Do you have the documents in front of you? Because it's going to take the documents to do this, Chris. Or pull them up, page 22.
When you're saying page numbers, I'm not matching with you.
So if you look at the Adobe PDF, you have to look there.
I am there.
On the side, it doesn't say page right there. It's a bugger of a document to get through.
This is a difficult one to scroll through.
It's kicked me now I'm going to move to page 21. It's a plan sheet. This is what you get when you appoint or elect an engineer. I finally get something to review. You probably shouldn't.
Were you giving a fair warning to the residents right there? This is what you get.
This is what you get. Okay, page. Is that 21?
That's 21. That's what I got.
Pretty dang close. Okay.
Yeah.
So north is up, correct?
Yep.
Correct.
So water flow starts on the north and comes this direction across this property.
Can you use your pointer?
I don't think he has one.
Here you go. You've definitely taken the pointer away from me. You're smarter than that. All right, I'm going to be patient.
Oh, that's a nice try.
Good thought.
Go up a little bit. I can see it on this
Oh,
screen.
There
Boy,
it
that
is.
is super awkward. All right, so water's flowing this direction. South, west.
That's west side, yeah.
Okay? So what happens to the water that's flowing this direction, and does this become a pond on this gentleman's property because of this development?
So it's kind of interesting. The flow of the land is actually south and east, and it goes to the Salem Sloughs, which empties into Dry Creek, which it's kind of surprising. Generally, flow is north and west, but in this area, it's south and east. The place where it crosses the highway is in the bottom right corner of the whole development, right there. And so what they have designed is in their storm drain and overflow at the southeast corner of that field that you were pointing out, where that tailwater can overflow and go into the storm drain.
Okay. And assuming that that solution doesn't work and it ponds on these folks' property, that'll be the developer's responsibility to take care of.
So if it ponds on their property, it'll pond on their property. The development should be higher than their property, and it would just either pond or overflow into the road borrow area.
I'm not necessarily, I mean, these folks, I'm worried about the folks that aren't developing today, this property and this property, creating a pond on their facility, on their land, because it can't get to where it used to go. Are you saying that it's designed to not do that? It's
the low point has an overflow.
And continue on the path that it once has.
But because the low point is right there at the southeast corner of their fields too. So,
but you're going to be raising that whole development up, correct? And so, how does the water flow from that empty lot that won't be raised down to that low point?
So there's a catch basin at the southeast corner
of that property
that can receive the tailwater from the field.
So this tailwater comes to here.
Yeah,
and then
it's a little counterintuitive when you're used to Spanish Fork flowing the exact opposite direction, but this area it flows south and east, and it ends up there in the sloughs to the east of Olson's.
Okay. Thank you. I have one more. You're not going anywhere. Sorry, residents of Spanish Fork.
I love this. This is great.
Do you really?
Is this the kind of fun that you were talking about?
There's nothing magic about 752.
We can go till 10. So while you're looking for the next question, and we have a discussion on which slide it's on and how to get there. What are you looking at me
22.
For?
Next page.
One thing that's important that I think governs this is that historic flow that we were talking about earlier. And so whenever development happens in the middle of a field like this, the developer has historic flows that they have to take care of with their engineering. And that's what you're talking about, right, Chris? That they're being sensitive to that. And a lot of times we have utilities that are gone to and through. And in this case, it's kind of what you're dealing with there. They have to start with stormwater coming from before the project and then going out and through it.
There's something sacred in case law about historic flows, and you can't interfere with it, and so you can't increase it, as you know the Olsons are opposed to. You can't just interfere with allowing more or less to go through. I mean, less to go through your property as well. So,
and the engineer, I guess it's Atlas, knows this and has taken it into account and designed it to comply with that law.
Yeah, the city actually got together with Salem City, Payson City, because this Salem Slough actually drains into Bear Creek, which goes through Payson, and the county. So all four government agencies got together, and we commissioned a study of this whole general area, studied the storm drain, set coefficients for runoff that Seth was talking about earlier, and made a general plan for how it was all going to flow. And all these cities kind of participated in that. That's what Atlas is following. Okay. And then we make sure that they follow that really closely. So they design more on-site things, and then they just have strict parameters that they have to follow from our master plan.
One last question. And I think we talked a little bit about drainage districts when this first came up, and it's been a popular topic over the last year or so. So I had a chance to actually talk to a drainage district today, because I'm just confused about what the requirements were and what. It's a pretty small drainage district, and they have some. You need to make sure you talk to the right person in this case, or otherwise, someone may be just giving you some bad advice. So I talked to the right person finally today at Benjamin Drainage District, these guys here. And the concern is that because of the sensitivity of the drainage and the districts and there's several water user groups in this area, has this group checked in with them? Do they have the proper, whether it's a permit, an encroachment permit, whatever it might be, have they checked in with them to make sure that they are not impacted, that the district is not impacted by this development?
So we have actually gone to that drainage district twice and made sure they're fine with it. Both times they assured us they're fine with everything that's being done.
So when you say that, you're talking to the engineer
we're talking to the leadership of the drainage district.
It's recently been. So the guy I talked to today is the chairman. He has not talked about this project at all, but he's new, and so I think that's part of the communication problem. Is he's new and he just hasn't. His engineering firm that does this for him has talked to you all about it. So as this thing moves, what I would like to know, and it might not be, maybe it's a condition today, that the boxes are checked, right? That we know for sure that the chairman of this current board, the chairman of Benjamin, I can never get this right, Benjamin Drainage District. I want to call it the Water District.
Drainage.
It's drainage, though. The Benjamin Drainage District knows about it, understands the impact, and is comfortable with it. There's no doubt that this project is going to go forward. These apartments are going to be there. That's not my issue. I agree with it. I support that. It's the perfect place for them. I just want to make sure we do it right so that we're not fighting this battle because a box may or may not have been checked. So
I think it's a great condition. Okay. We'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
And yet, I mean, the understanding is clear, and we've had very in-depth conversations with the developer, their engineer, the consultant that the three cities have hired. That again, I mean, it's a fairly precise situation where there's a historic release that has been happening that can't be exceeded, and
or
even it
with.
can't be right. So it's my understanding that if somebody at a drainage district had a concern with a project continuing to produce the same amount of drainage as what historically had been occurring, there wouldn't be anything that anybody could do about that necessarily. And the history is what it is, and that will be maintained. And that's.
I think it goes beyond the actual outfall, though. There are facilities in this area that are going to be impacted in some way. There's a road over one of them. There's a ditch that gets moved. Like, they need to be okay with that, and I think they will. I'm not suggesting that this isn't surmountable at all. What I would like to see is something so that it's not, I talk to someone, you talk to someone, we talk to somebody, and they all said no and yes. I would like to see, here's the approval from the district that says it's okay to go forward.
Memorialize.
That's it. Yeah, there's a process. I just want to make sure it's followed so that there's no back and forth about what is. And Chris said, that's fine, put that in as a finding, and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, I think that's pretty easy.
Not an engineering unsurmountable thing.
No, and I think it might be good for the city council to understand what a drainage district is. We deal with drainage districts all the time on lots of projects, but it's not like overground drainage. It's a bunch of farmers got together a long time ago and land that had too much water on it or in the ground needed to be drained, and so they put a series of underground perforated type pipes or pipes that can allow groundwater in, and then they collect that water in it, and it just drains the groundwater out so that you can farm the fields. And so their main goal is to make sure that that system that was installed a long time ago, in this case it was so long ago, it's clay tile pipe, and so it's not perforated, it just has open joints where these and they're not real big pipes, but they can allow water from the ground into them, and then it drains out to like the Salem Slough or something like that. And so usually a drainage district is really kind of protective of these pipes and just wants to make sure that when you build a building, you don't break a main line pipe and block it and things like that. So anyway, we work with them all the time, and so I don't think this is an onerous ask at all. It's pretty easy. Okay. Any questions about that?
Thank you, Chris.
I guess one question. Talking about these pipes, the clay tile pipes, how would you know they're underground, right? So how would we know if this development were to go in, there were pipes underneath?
They just have rough maps.
But how would we know if something broke and needed to be fixed or changed after the fact?
So typically, if we get near one of these pipes, we just protect in place. Usually, my experience is these pipes, the main trunk lines run along roads or things like that, and then you might have a lateral or two going into a specific field, and when that field develops, those laterals aren't needed as much, but they relocate them, or if they're in the way of a building. It kind of depends on what the drainage district wants you to do. So
do we know, are there any pipes or drainage pipes with this development that will need to be changed out or replaced as it gets built?
I'm not familiar with what has been done with the drainage district on this. Yeah. I know that we've been in communication with this drainage district several times in the last month on several projects.
So that's kind of what Shane is asking for, is a condition that
let's just make sure. It's a great condition.
Okay, great.
Great question, Shane. You have 6 minutes more?
Those are my 4. I'm worried about drainage on someone's other property, discharge, making sure we're comfortable where it's going, the Benjamin Drainage District, and then the nuisance stuff that we talked about before. That was a big deal last time. Just want to make sure we're comfortable with the language today, and it does what the intent is for, which is to allow the farmer not to be harassed by these folks moving in here.
Vaughn, this development agreement doesn't necessarily take place of the conditions that are already placed. It's in addition to those conditions, correct? So, Shane, those conditions were already there, so they're still going to be.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I recall, it was a condition of the preliminary plat that the for sale product and the rental product both had the disclaimer language. So every person, every resident there should know that.
Yeah. So given this language, we move forward, this gets built, the owner or the leasee has signed this, they call up chief and they say, hey, it's 2 a.m. and they're crop dust, whatever. I don't know how it works. He says
bailing.
Bailing.
There you go.
I don't know.
Crop
I
dusting.
don't know what that. I don't know either one of those things mean. People know I'm not a farmer.
Come on, Mater.
I'm not going to pretend. But that someone calls up and is upset about the agricultural operation going next door. We say, understand that that's going on next door. You sign a disclosure form that says you disclose that. Thank you for your call. End of story.
Not only that, but the state, like I mentioned, there's a state statute that protects the agriculture operator from both civil liability and criminal prosecution for agriculture operations.
Okay.
Yep.
Title 44 of the Utah Code. 444, excuse me.
I don't know that any call like that has ever happened in the city's limits, but I'm pretty confident that that's exactly how it would be.
I am 95% confident it will happen here. It's just this is in a different spot. But it sounds like they're protected, and Chief's going to say thank you for your call and go help them. Go help them crop dust.
No, we don't want that. That will cause problems at the airport. We don't want that.
Okay.
those were my concerns. So.
This was already around also around the time where we started talking about protection zones inside Spanish Fork, right? The county has those zones that add just a different layer of acknowledgement, if you will. Hey, we want to protect what we're doing here. And we adopted that inside city limits here. So the neighboring landowners here, you can see on the zoning map, are inside Spanish Fork and have the opportunity to make application if they wanted to.
If they have enough land
if they have enough land to do it. Yeah, inside the city, if they qualify for the zones that we've set up. But I appreciate that detail there, Vaughn. I think it's important that this is an extra layer for the people that will be there. Hey, you've signed this agreement that you know what's going on next door, and that response can be pretty swift. Here's the law, here's the code, and enjoy looking at the baled hay. Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty high level and significant condition that you included with that approval 2 years ago. That's not something we've ever done before, and I think that adds that level, that acknowledgement, right, that the landowner and the title company have to give is a nice belt or suspender, or perhaps both, in addition to those the protections that are in the law. So I think that was a good add, and I like that foresight that you guys put to that.
Any other questions from the council for Vaughn, Chris, Dave on this?
Got 2 minutes.
We got 2 minutes. We're not take all the time we want. Okay, with Vaughn explained the development agreement, that the additional finding that is in our copy here, as well as the additional one, I think is a good idea.
Would that be a finding? Okay.
So the one that you mentioned is a finding here. Yeah, then this would be a condition.
Right.
Well, the motion includes the findings that are in the agreement itself.
Gotcha. Subject to the condition.
Additional condition. Yes.
Okay, we're talking conditions here. So if somebody's ready to make a motion, I would include reading both of those conditions that were discussed here.
Shane, do you want to shoot at it?
I don't know the first one. I have a pretty good idea what my condition is. What was the
first one's in the verbiage?
In the bold?
Yeah.
Oh, the part that says the condition that this. Okay.
Yeah, where it says condition. Yeah.
It's bold.
I'm having a rough night seeing tonight. Okay, here we go.
It's that getting old thing.
It is. I mean, I'm on the fence of saying yes or no, to be honest. That's why I'm not sure I want to make the motion. But I want to make sure, if we prove this, which I think it's going to get approved anyway, that the condition is correct. So I'm going to do it. I move to approve the development agreement for Modera based on the following findings contained in the agreement and subject to the condition that the stormwater from the Modera site be discharged only at historic flow rates at historic locations or other safe locations, even if historic discharge rates change based on further study and analysis, and on the condition that the Benjamin Drainage District sign off on the potential impacts to their system before, just that they sign off to the potential impacts of their system.
I have a question on the motion. You said that you were on the fence.
Don't look at me with those scowly eyes.
You said you're on the fence, though.
Mm-hmm.
About this, or
just
if you make the motion, that's your motion.
That's my motion. I'm in.
You're in. Okay.
I can still say no to my motion.
That's kind of weird.
Question to the motion with your condition that they sign off. If they don't sign off, does that come back to the city council? It would.
I mean, if they can't sign off, that would mean it's not engineeringly possible.
Do we
to
give them a time frame to sign off in the condition?
That's a significant. The context of what you're saying here is a pretty significant thing. You're saying that some external group has the ability to undo this project, and I'm not sure that's a precedent or a road you want to go down.
Yeah.
And so I think you just say solve the problem, and
then they'll figure it out.
And they get to figure that out, right? I'm not sure, and I'll let Vaughn weigh in on that. But Yeah. I mean, that's like saying Rocky Mountain Power for some reason could say you can't do this.
We do it all the time. We say this is conditioned on UDOT saying they can have access. So the precedent's set. So we're saying in this case, this is approved based on whether or not Benjamin Drainage District approves. Now, we're not asking the Benjamin Drainage District to approve the subdivision or the development. We're saying they have a role and responsibility to protect their resource. Does this do that? And if not, what are the mitigation efforts to protect their resource?
How do you work around that if they're not happy with the result?
If there's a pipe going through the property, they have the legal right by state law to move it wherever they want, whether the drainage district wants them to or not. They don't even they don't need to get permission to move it. They can move it. But we generally work through these districts and with the property owners and say, hey, let's do it so everyone's in agreement with how it should be done, and that usually works. But I kind of get what Seth's saying. We don't want to give control. It might be better to have the engineering division say they're meeting the requirements that
and this area is now draining differently. Let's say tomorrow, right? It's now developed. It's got the project that's on it. It's not needing this project area isn't needing those pipes in the drainage district to drain it anymore. It's being dealt with differently, and as Chris was talking about, it's going a different route. What it needs to ensure is that it can drain what was above it to what was below it, and so that system can continue, right? That shouldn't be very difficult.
No, I don't think so. I don't think the ask is very difficult.
No, and I'm agreeing with you. So I'm probably just coming back to the point of I don't think you want to give them the authority to say yes or no to this project. I think you're saying
check the box,
figure it out, right? You're saying to the project people, you figure it out. This is your approval, not their approval.
By the way, they're not. I don't think they're asking for it. The Benjamin Drainage District is not asking for some type of memorialized permit either.
They actually are. I talked to them today.
Asking for
today, as of right now, Anthony does not know about the project.
And Anthony
he's brand new. That's my point. He's brand new. I get that part. He has a role to do. He has a job to do.
Right.
He's got to protect his resource. All I'm saying is, if he says my resource is protected, I'm good.
Totally. Yeah.
I wanted to see him say that. He can't say that today because he's too new. So whoever we've been dealing with has not passed that information to him. His engineer knows about it. They are fairly comfortable. So I don't think this is a lift. All I'm saying is let's make sure the boxes are checked. And we've checked the boxes. Anthony's aware. He's going to process this. He has a role to do, and he has an approval to give.
Well, we have a great relationship with Glenn, who's the engineer, and we can work with him. This is not hard.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not hard. So I guess I need to put the condition in a way that's more comfortable.
Yeah.
So the condition would be that Spanish Fork Public Works works with the Benjamin Drainage District to mitigate any potential impact that the development has.
I like that. There you go.
I like that too. That's good.
Second condition, revised condition there by Councilman Marshall, the other one that he mentioned as well. Any discussion on that motion? I'd entertain a second on that motion.
I'll second.
Motion made by Councilman Marshall, seconded by Councilman Oyler. This is a roll call vote. Councilman Cardon?
Yes.
Councilman Tooke?
Yes.
Councilman Marshall?
Yes.
Councilwoman Beck?
Yes.
And Councilman Oyler?
Yes.
Item D is approved with the conditions discussed. Takes us to item E on new business, consideration for adoption of a resolution of the City Council of Spanish Fork City authorizing the issuance and sale of not more than $65 million aggregate principal amount of sales tax revenue bonds, Series 2024, and related matters. Mr. Von Kell.
Nick has some glossy pictures to show.
Glossy.
So this is just a little bit of update on the project. There's a rendering of the completed building There's the site today. There we go. Well, that's not today. Excuse me. That's a sunnier day. But there's the site after it was prepped. Some photos of interior. You can see the exercise equipment, the circumnavigating track, the basketball courts and other courts there, the pickleball courts. A lot of amenities for recreation in the building and outside of the building, including the pool, the fun pool, and the water slides and all that, including interior pools for the competition pool as well. So there's a lot of fun things that will be coming. And also the Senior Community Center will be a key feature of the building as well. Here is today. So this is what you can see today. You can see there's a lot of construction taking place. There's concrete flying already. They're building the building. So that's exciting. So I want to just kind of catch you up to what we've done to get here. The city's had in the past its legislative decisions and adopting a property tax increase and in passing a budget. Those legislative decisions have basically enabled the construction of the project. Today, the Local Government Bonding Act and the Notice of Debt Issuance Act require this parameters resolution and then a subsequent public hearing and resolution to be adopted. So let me discuss the parameters resolution. The parameters does what you think it might do. It sets the parameters or the boundaries of the borrowing, and that includes. So they're all maximums. They're a maximum of $65 million, a maximum of 30-year repayment period, a maximum of selling them for no less than 98% of the principal value of the notes, and then a maximum of 6.5% interest. Also, they will be backed by the sales tax and the municipal energy tax of the city. So those revenues are what's pledged, not property tax, not any other tax or general funds, but the sales tax and the municipal energy tax. Also, the resolution would authorize an administrative resolution after the public hearing to be held that the council would administratively act and adopt a resolution authorizing the new debt. Finally, that public hearing is scheduled as set out in the parameters resolution as March 19th, with additional notice of that hearing to go out with the notice of intent to issue debt and the administrative new debt resolution, or the affirmation resolution as it's called, that would be adopted after the public hearing. So we've got these legislative acts that have occurred. Now we're kind of in the administrative phase where we would basically execute what's been authorized before. Are there any questions about that?
Questions for Vaughn? I guess the legislative side that you reference is the budget we passed that included the increase.
That's
in tax
one of them.
to pay
There
for.
were several legislative steps: the project, property tax, the budget, and then adopting, whatever else till we got to this point, and now it's to execute the administrative act side of this.
So Vaughn, so that I understand it correctly, so tonight we do this act. The next step is a public hearing on March 21st. That was the date you said?
March
19th.
19th.
I'm just making up dates now. And then after that would be the issuance of
right.
kind of like what we did with the wastewater treatment plant. Call it the right name.
Likely the same meeting. You'd have the public hearing and then act on that new resolution.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the timing for that hearing is a little bit longer than we would have liked, but with caucus night, we didn't feel like that was the right time to have it, so it's pushed back to the second meeting in March. So it's a little bit longer away than we typically would, but wanted to give deference to that night on March. I think it's March 5th, whatever the first Tuesday is in March.
Anything else?
Doesn't affect the building or anything, though?
No. As you can see, the construction's ongoing. And I think one thing that we're going to try to do, and we got Jonathan Ward there if you want to pull him up. He's always a good voice to ask questions about. We're tracking the bond market right now and seeing where interest rates are going, and I'd say rates are like that, slightly downward. And so if they continue on a slightly downward trend, maybe we pick up 20 basis points, maybe we pick up 30. I'd love it if we got 50. And so we're just going to watch it. We don't have to have this money in hand probably until, let's say, June 1st. And so if we can wait as long as we can to see, and those rates are just ever slowly dropping, or we see the Fed drops the rate, which then creates maybe a precipitous drop, it's just better for the project long term anyway. So we're really watching that. We've got Jonathan kind of on the watch there. So as we finish these processes, we can go to market as quickly or as slowly as we need to make sure that we hit the right timing to get the best interest rates that we can get. How'd I do? Did I get that right, Jonathan? Yeah. So we should be ready to go to the market maybe by April 1st. That might be a little bit fast, but maybe by about April 1st and then as late as June 1st. Just watching the rates.
We just don't want to watch the rates and then have to react and then do this and then.
Right, yeah.
We want to be able to go.
We can't go that fast. Yeah, it takes the time, the processes, and the hearings.
Let the process get that through so that we have the flexibility.
Yeah, I think we have a 30-day kind of notice period for those public hearings and things like that. So we just have to make sure we get everything lined up so we can be fast.
Perfect. Any questions for Vaughn or staff about item E for the resolution to authorize the issuance and sale of not more than $65 million in aggregate principal amount of sales tax revenue bonds? If there's no questions, I would entertain a motion for item E.
I move to approve the resolution of the City Council of Spanish Fork City, Utah, authorizing the issuance and sale of not more than $65 million aggregate principal amount of sales tax revenue bonds, Series 2024, and related matters.
Motion made by Councilman Tooke.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Beck.
That's correct.
This is a roll call vote. Councilman Oyler?
Yes.
Councilman Cardon?
Yes.
Councilman Tooke?
Yes.
Councilman Marshall?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Beck.
Yes.
Item E is approved. Now tell them to get it built tomorrow, Dale. We need it done. I know every time we talk with those contractors, we're telling them to speed it up, not slow it down, and I know the residents are super excited for it. So another step in the completion of the recreation center and senior center.
And senior center.
More room for the senior centers. Yep.
They need the room.
Yep. Mr. Chris Thompson, item F, State of Utah tolling agreement.
So with the algae blooms and regulations of the state, our old treatment plant, it became very obvious some 10 years ago, would not be adequate to meet future regulation. And so finally that regulation came. It triggered us needing to build a new treatment plant. And that is underway, and we've been working with the state through that whole permitting process. And as part of that, our new plant is very modern and very future-proof. So if we get even more regulation coming, we should be able to meet that easily. But we also have, at the same time, this re-permitting process going on. So every 5 years, a treatment plant gets a new permit, and in that permit, different limits on contaminants, if you will, are put in. And in our last process, some of those limits were more designed towards our new treatment plant than our old treatment plant, which could never meet those limits, and because of that, we have violated some of those limits, and there's a few other violations and concerns that are centered around our old treatment plant, which we have been reticent to put any money into for some time, knowing that it was going to be replaced, and so. Wastewater treatment plants are very expensive, and so we've been kind of nursing it along, trying to get it through until this new one's built next year. So we're really excited about next year and having that in place. And so when these violations, we actually report the violations to the state. The state needs to act on it, but they set up this tolling agreement that basically just buys time for us to work out what are the ramifications of these violations and how they'll be handled. And so this just kind of buys time for that. We've already been meeting with them. It looks like they're very agreeable at not requiring us to meet requirements that only our new treatment plant can meet, and they're very they're recognizing that we are putting a lot of money into having a very good system, and they understand why. They also understand why we're a little bit behind on this 5-year permitting, and the reason is because the director of this state department actually came to us before we designed our plant and said, before you do this, we want you to look into the feasibility of building a regional plant out by the lake that could drain, a bit bigger area, a lot of the area out towards West Mountain, and see if that could ever be feasible. They're very anxious to consolidate treatment, and so they really wanted us to look at that, and they said that if we did that, they would give us an extra 1.5 years on the dates of when our plant needed to be. And so we kind of explain all this. The reason why we are completing it when we are completing it is because we actually were working with you to get these things done. And, that person is gone, but there's a new one. And so a lot of that's being worked out. It looks like it's going to be fine. But this tolling agreement makes it so that any statute of limitations or anything like that are kind of put on hold while we work this out and go forward. So does that?
So, Chris, what was the result of the regional facility evaluation?
So it was actually the third study of doing a regional study, and all 3 of those studies found that by the time you build these huge pipelines all that way to Utah Lake, it is so much more cost effective just to rebuild your treatment plants in place. There's just so much money in it, and the fact is there is no one place that the whole valley drains to. You would have pump stations and pipe works under every river, and just it would be very, very expensive. And basically, if we were asked to do that, it'd be for us to spend a lot of money to make it possible for a whole bunch of farmland to develop. It just wouldn't be fair to ask our citizens to do that. So it turned out the same as the other studies.
Even though for a time we had ground purchase with an association for that regional facility, but those studies didn't merit going out there and building that to connect.
There is some precedence for the state to step in and put a whole bunch of money towards a regional plant, and that's been done in other areas, but the state signaled to us pretty early on that they wouldn't be able to do that. So a regional plant wasn't a ridiculous idea that we were wasting time and money on, but without a significant infusion of state funds, it would not make sense.
Okay. Any further questions for Chris on this tolling agreement? This is going from the item before of moving fast to build clean water facilities to get something built fast to handle our dirty water and make it clean, but not swim in it. And we need this agreement to get there. You're telling them to build that fast as well, right? Build it, get it done yesterday?
Yeah, we would like it done. It's kind of stressful running a plant that is as old as ours. We've had some late nights. Seth, we've allowed Seth to participate in those late nights with us. it's a little stressful watching that thing that's held together with duct tape and baling wire. It seems.
JB Weld, literally.
Yeah, we do have a lot of JB Weld in that plant.
I love the process that we followed through time. I mean, I think we did it right, as Chris has kind of touched on, going back 10 years, 15 years. I think we did it right. This is a significant investment. So doing what we did with Souvmois and then doing what we did with the state and eventually deciding on the course that we've done, I think we did it right. But yeah, it's good or done.
Early in the process, we actually hired 3 different engineering firms to really research and present what they thought was the best possible type of plant, location of plant, and scenario for future regulation, everything. And then they actually presented to an ad hoc committee that included some city council and staff and some experts from all over the state of Utah. And they presented those to us, and we selected which engineering firm we felt like had the best option for us. And then we went into the design. And right at that point, while we were going into design, actually Jonathan here came and he was talking to me, and he said, and I always quote him because it was funny, he just said, interest rates are at the lowest they have been since Adam and Eve, which is pretty low. And so we made the decision to almost a year and a half before we even knew the final cost of this plant, before we got our guaranteed maximum price for the bulk of the plant, to jump in and bond for what we thought was a reasonable amount, but would be less. We knew we'd have to do kind of a makeup bond, so we didn't want to overbond because when you bond, you only have 3 years to spend the money. And so we bonded in 2020. We didn't have the design done and a guaranteed maximum price till even further into 2021. But because we got those low rates of 1.6%, it saved the city over the life of the loan over $25 million. I mean, that was a significant good move, and now we're doing the makeup bond for what's left. But we've done a lot of things that kind of have helped us to be future-proof, but also save as much money as we can on interest and things like that. So.
Well, fortunate to tie up the land that we did next to it as well, that early. I mean, what would that land, that wasn't our land before, so that land could have been something else in the years previous, and now you're looking for new land or trying to expand on the current facility that's operating and being held together. So, I mean, fortunate it came together with good rates and the timing to make it happen, because it saved us a lot of money compared to facilities that are having to be built by other cities too. So
I just look at what we paid for that land, and it's really good. We bought it when we did. It's great.
Okay, if there's no other questions for Chris on this one, I'd entertain a motion on item F.
I move to approve the State of Utah tolling agreement.
Motion made by Councilman Cardon.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Oyler. So roll call vote as well. Councilman Marshall?
Yes.
Councilwoman Beck?
Yes.
Councilman Oyler?
Yes.
Councilman Cardon?
Yes.
And Councilman Tooke?
Yes.
Item F's approved. Takes us to G, water reclamation facility change order for equalization tank piping.
So we are not building the full water reclamation facility right now. We have kind of a master plan. We have stages, things that we can add to increase capacity. One of the early stages, one of the first things that we would do to add capacity to this plant is build what's called an equalization tank. That means that when you have peak flows, when halftime of the Super Bowl, when those peak flows come, you can store it all in a tank, right? And then wait till it calms down in the middle of the night and then treat it. And so that way you don't have to build a plant that can handle the highest amount of wastewater coming in at all times. You can build a tank or build a plant that will handle the average easily. And then you have this equalization tank. And so this plant that we're building is pretty big. It can handle weighs a lot more than what we're handling now. But we've had some pretty big developments proposed. And as all of these proposals come and we're reacting to them, we're realizing that this equalization tank, instead of being 15 years away, is between 5 and 15 years away. We don't know. It really depends on growth. But it could be as soon as 5 years. And as we talked about it, we thought, before we put the site all back together, let's get the pipes that are coming out of the input of the plant. Let's get the pipes out of there, out from underneath all the concrete and all the areas that it would be a little bit more money to cut and get out of it, and get them set so that when we build the equalization tank, it'll be a lot cheaper and save money at that time. If it was 15 years out, the pipes, it doesn't make sense. You might as well cut the concrete and get it out. But if it's 5, you'd feel bad about cutting that concrete. So
this would also allow the plant to continue unimpeded while you build the tank too, because you don't have to do anything to the site at all.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We're now isolated. We can just work in this area, and the plant can continue on. It's a good move, and so we'd recommend approval of this change order.
Any other questions for Chris on this? Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion for item G to approve the change order.
I move to approve the water reclamation facility change order for equalization tank piping.
Second. Motion made by Councilman Marshall, seconded by Councilman Cardon. Roll call vote here. Councilman Tooke.
Yes.
Councilman Cardon.
Yes.
Councilman Oyler.
Yes.
Councilwoman Beck.
Yes.
And Councilman Marshall.
Yes.
Item G is approved. Takes us to item H. This is still up here for Public Works Department change orders.
Okay, so this year we've been working on 2 pump house rebuilds, Darger pump house rebuild. This is the pump house that's kind of near the golf course. If you go under the tunnel of the golf course, you look off to the left across the river, you see a little red brick building. That's Darger pump house. It's a pressurized irrigation system pump house. And every so often you need to provide maintenance to these pumps. But you don't really know to what level of maintenance you have to do in a pump until you open it up. And so we budgeted this much for it. We got a contract to open it up and to do repairs that we knew were needed, and that was for this much. As we open it up, what's needed is more than those initial repairs, but underneath our budget. So what was needed is in between what we budgeted and what the initial contract was. Our purchasing policy requires these to be brought to City Council. The first one is for $23,000. That's for Darger, and then the other is for the golf course booster pump, which the total amount is $32,000.
For both? 32 for both?
No, one's 31 and the other one's 23.
Golf course is 32. The original was 14. 14 opened it up and did the basic repairs that we knew we needed to have done, and then we have to add 32 on it to replace more of. We have to rebuild the pump.
And both of those fell into that where you were saying they were under your budget, but they were over what your bid price was.
Yeah, well, they're enough over the bid price that it needs to come here, but they're both under budget. And then the last change order, number 3, is on the 600 North water main project. This is the 3rd similar type change order that we've done. I've come to you with 2 water line change orders on this. This is for a sewer line that is parallel to one of the water lines. We met with all of the division managers and said, hey, if there's anything in 300 East, we want it fixed now before we build, before we repave that road. And this project was far enough out that he didn't know for sure if he wanted to replace, but after further study of the pipeline, he felt like it should be replaced. And so we asked for a price to replace that sewer line, and it came in at almost half what bid prices were from a year ago. We have heard rumors from other engineering firms that bid prices on pipe projects like this have come quite a bit down. And so I think it might be normal, or it might be legitimate, but it was such a good price that we're actually bidding out our next sewer price as an alternate that we can either say yes to or no to. And if that bid price is higher than this price, we would come to you again and say, let's just go do this up at 8th North and get that in too. So we're kind of leaving that door open. But we feel like this is a good price. They are in the area. There's no mobilization in this price, and there is a lot of, since they're already digging the water line, digging the sewer line in the same area with all the road closures and everything like that, would be easier. So we recommend doing this mostly because we want this done and the trenches to have some time to settle before we resurface the road. We prefer to bid everything, but we feel like this is a really good contractor. It's a really good price, and it allows us to have these trenches settle out and be out of the way before we do the big road project. It also, there's one last thing that we've been talking about. When you do it this way, you don't have to have the level of engineering for plans that you are required for bidding. And engineered plans are very expensive now. It's for relatively small projects, you're spending over $50,000, and it's kind of nice to give them a map and say, we have to replace this sewer, and we'll survey it, give it to you, and we don't have to go to a detail level, what I call bid level, on the engineering. And so it'll save us probably around $40,000 in engineering to do it this way too. So
should have been an engineer.
That's only 2 hours.
Yeah, that just gets you started.
Just get started.
Yeah, it would be a good time to design more in-house if we had this.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for those details. You have 3 change orders. The Darger pump rebuild. Darger, what somebody's
Darger?
name?
Where did that come from?
That Icelandic for?
Must be Verk Darger.
Golf course booster pump and 600 North Water Main project. And sewer line along 300 East. Any questions for Chris? If not, I'd entertain a motion on item H for these change orders.
I guess last one, where does the money from the third change order come from, the $125,000?
The sewer budget. So we are planning. We are planning this in the budget.
Okay.
We are just going to bid it, but I feel like
you got a good price.
Much better to get it done now and let the trenches settle out and get one contractor out of the way before the other one comes in.
Sure. Okay. We'd plan for it. We're just accelerating a little bit because we're in the area working on it. Okay. With that, I would move to approve all 3 change orders.
Motion made by Councilman Marshall.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Tooke. Roll call vote here. Councilman Oyler.
Yes.
Councilwoman Beck.
Yes.
Councilman Marshall.
Yes.
And Councilman Tooke.
Yes.
And Councilman Cardon.
Yes.
Okay. Item H is approved as well. Anything that needs to come before the council before we entertain a motion to go to closed session? Okay.
I move to go into closed session for strategy sessions to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property.
Motion made by Councilman Cardon. Seconded by Councilman Tooke to go into closed session. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
We're in closed session. Thank you for coming, everybody.